Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from WhatCulture Gaming, joined as ever by Josh Brown.
Ooh, hello, Ewan.
Hello. It's like you didn't know you were in the video, but then you were. We're here today to talk about Marvel's Avengers because it comes out, I believe, this September, and Square Enix finally revealed some more about the game yesterday in a big hour-long presentation called the War Table, all caps, and there was lots of cool stuff that they showed off in there, like the story. We got to have our first look at the game's, ancillary antagonist, MODOK, the mental organism designed only for killing. I did that acronym just to show off my nerd clout. And all sorts of stuff to do with the story, co-op, war zones, customization, gear, gameplay, all the stuff. And my overriding impression of the game, Josh Brown, right now is, It's like I want to give it the hug. I want to give it the full embrace. But right now I'm just kind of like I appreciate so many different things about it. I've been crying for a multiplayer co-op focused combat video game since Xbox Live was a thing. We've never really had one. So the fact that they're going to fulfill that fantasy is very great. And there were a few shots in this whole demo thing where I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like the shot of Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, and Ms. Marvel. Oh my god, it's great that Kamala Khan is in this game, by the way. I keep forgetting to mention that. When they're all kind of walking up to that big Warzone arena, and it's like, yes, this is cool. This is cinematic. I really like this. But then there are other things that I'm not too keen on. I think the gameplay looks a little bit stilted in parts, and then I'm not too keen on the actual the actual design of the universe itself. I know we can say for certain now that this isn't connected with Insomniac Spider-Man, which is a massive shame, but it doesn't. There's something about it where it's not clicking with me yet. I don't know if you're the same.
Yeah, exactly the same. I missed it last night, but I was catching up this morning and I was watching it and I was just kind of wondering, I was like, why isn't this doing it for me? This should be doing it for me. This should be what I want. Like, it doesn't look bad by any means, but there's just not that kind of extra spark that's bringing it all together, or I haven't seen that moment where I've gone, that's it. That's the Avengers game I want. That's why I need to buy this day one. Like, it looks fine and functional and all right. And I feel like I've had this kind of bottling up for a long time. When they first showed it off, I was kind of like there to defend it. I was like, well, we've just seen the first, glimpse at it. The character designs, they look a bit weird, but it'll be fine, it'll be okay. Then we got another look at it, and I had the same feeling now, but now we've had this proper blowout of, we had a new story trailer, we had a look at a single player mission with Thor, we had a look at the co-op, and there's just something kind of, it just doesn't seem like it's that next level superhero experience that I think we were all looking forward to. When Disney and Marvel kind of announced that they were taking the rights back and they were giving them, they were giving characters to, great developers. Crystal Dynamics, Square Enix, they've made some good stuff in the past, and yet this doesn't look as confident to me as Insomniac's Spider-Man, especially when it comes to like the single player and the story. It feels like it's just this overwhelming push of ideas before we've actually kind of got used to what this universe is. Like, obviously we know it's the Avengers, obviously we know these characters through, their multimedia appearances, but what Insomniac Spider-Man did so well was those developers put their own stamp on that character. They clarified how this universe kind of like functioned, how this kind of version of Spider-Man differed from those that came before. And I just don't get that from this trailer. It just seems like they could be any old Avengers in a way.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I feel as though there is a mishmash of influences going on right now, and obviously with the MCU being casting such a huge shadow over everything, it was always inevitable that those films would, influence everything that came afterwards to a certain degree. They influenced the comics themselves, actually. And yeah, there's a thing the thing for me about this is that the story is so urgent, and there is a lot of different, stuff that's being kind of thrown at audiences right now. You've got the Terrigen bomb that goes off, which is them doing their own version of the Inhumans. Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel is an Inhuman. You have all the different Inhumans going around. Then you have AIM roaming around as well. Captain America's dead. The Avengers have been gone for ages. It's really dank and depressing, the AIM of taking control of everything. And it's down to the Avengers to basically start from scratch, assemble a new team, and get going. And there is something, I think the idea of Kamala Khan bringing back the Avengers is a genius story concept. You know, she's the ultimate fangirl in the comics. Great character, been around for, I think, about six or 7 years now, which is like incredible to think about. And there's so much to do there in terms of her, you know, bringing back the Avengers, having them rediscover why they assembled in the first place after having gone their separate ways. But at the same time, part of me is kind of like, maybe something a little bit less ambitious would have made more sense for the first game. Maybe it would have been nice to have jump us straight into this already fully realized Marvel universe, sort of like how Insomniac did with Spider-Man, and let you do your own thing. Have a fully functioning helicarrier that you can customize, and then you can basically do missions almost like a one and done comic, you know. We have so many different things here. The overriding objective is to get rid of AIM and, you know, and save the world and stuff. But I think maybe it would have made more sense if for a game as a service title, you know, we already have the main story arc there, we have the co-op aspect, we have war zones. It would have been slightly cooler, I think, if they took the approach of let's make each mission an adventure in and of itself and then string together story arcs over the course of different missions as the game keeps going. I mean, you know, it is a platform. It's not a traditional game in any sense of the world. They could be doing this after the main story is done. Once you've reassembled the Avengers and defeated AIM, maybe they'll do something completely different afterwards and do that kind of thing that I've just pitched there. But as it stands, there is something about the interpretation that isn't quite clicking with me in this moment in time.
Yeah, and for me, it's always, every time I see something that I do like, there is something else to kind of counterbalance it. Like, it's not a thing where I'm looking at it, I'm just kind of poking holes and saying, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Because there are kind of moments that got me inspired. You know, you were talking there about kind of like the general setup. Like, the idea of kind of, like Ms. Marvel, like going around to like, Tony Stark, especially, like that banter was like so well done, I thought. And yet that was immediately contrasted by the kind of MCU-style jokes with where Thor's got his little name badge on and stuff like that. And I just feel like, on the one hand, there could be so much potential for this to feel like a proper, fully fleshed out world with, you know, deep, funny, nuanced characters. And we got a hint of that with, you know, like the Tony Stark scenes here. But that kind of gets contrasted with scenes that just, for me, like fall flat, especially when you talk about like the ambitions of the setup. It does feel like if I saw those plot points on paper, I would be so up for it. You know what I mean? The fact that, you know, the Avengers are disbanded, they have to come together, they've been brought together by this one guided figure. You know, we've had a 5-year gap where superhumans have been kind of like outlawed. There was this kind of cover-up conspiracy thing. Captain America's dead, but for a first game where we only know these characters, these versions of the characters through what we know from other media. You know, the only reason that we care that Captain America's dead in this game, is that is because we like Captain America. And I just feel like that's contrasted with kind of what they've said about the game. You know, they've confirmed that there's going to be 6 heroes. They've shown off, you know, 5 in this game. In the 6th, there's obviously going to be Cap because he's on the front of the box. He's on the front of all the marketing and stuff like that. And it just kind of feels a bit hodgepodge in the way they've gone about it. Like, it's a lot of good ideas smashed in with some kind of misguided execution, at least from what we've seen so far, especially when it came to the single player hero mission. Like, I was just kind of wondering why that was the mission that they showed off. You know, it's Thor on this heli carrier taking out these big robot guys. And it like, some of the moves looked a bit spectacular, but it was nothing that I hadn't really seen before. Like, the idea of taking out 4 of the same versions of the same enemy, like, that's not a spectacular set piece that I expect to be shown off. You know, it's not Spider-Man escaping from the raft or Spidey chasing Mr. Negative through New York and jumping through the helicopter and anything like that. It felt a weirdly kind of, flat and static for a game that should be so vibrant and full of life.
There's lots of stuff that kind of gets thrown at you in that gameplay sequence, and the thing that I was most excited about, even though it is the most scripted thing there, was actually the bit where Thor takes control of the helicarrier and writes it, but then that only lasted for like a few seconds. It's like you've done all this repetitive, go to X big boss, do the same move over and over again to take it down, then get onto the final bit and do that, and then you're rewarded with a tiny little sequence, but it was a little bit frustrating. They confirmed yesterday that there'll be 6 heroes available at launch, which is, I feel as though the way this game has been marketed has been quite weird, because I remember after the first the A-Day trailer that we had, I believe at last year's E3, They did show off Hank Pym in a post-credits thing, but they've mentioned as well that a lot of the missions in this game, you'll talk to real-life characters from the Marvel Universe. Real-life characters from the Marvel Universe, that makes no sense to you. Characters from the Marvel Universe who will actually send you on different things. So obviously we saw Nick Fury in this trailer. I love the design for him here. And I'm guessing Hank Pym will do that as well. But yeah, certainly I was probably mistakenly expecting a bigger roster at launch, and obviously they said they're going to, have loads of content planned going forward. But 6 heroes at launch, I was kind of like, maybe I'm greedy. Maybe I'm greedy, Josh. I don't know.
I don't know.
I want my boy Hawkeye in there. I want Hawkeye in there. That's what I'm saying. I want Hawkeye, and then I want Ant-Man, so I can fire Ant-Man at a dude, and then they'll
Yeah, I feel like, this is kind of an opinion that I was sort of trying to suppress while I was watching, because I do want to like this game, you know what I mean? And I want more. And I was watching kind of, again, that single player one. I'll move on to the co-op one in a second, but I was watching the, Thor do these moves and pull off these moves. And I just thought, this looks like a really polished Marvel Ultimate Alliance game, you know what I mean? It didn't have that weight to it that I expected from this game. And if we are going to get something of that style, I want more characters, I want more variety when it comes to how you use them as a team and stuff. And it feels like that only really comes into play in the co-op stuff, which admittedly for me did look more exciting, even though we only got probably a smaller tease of that. Like the ability to, choose missions and kind of have a more free-form approach to combat, like the way you had Iron Man kind of like flying around, blasting people from above, and you had, Hulk on the ground. Like that interplay between the characters in a multiplayer setting did look really kind of enjoyable, and I think that fits a multiplayer setting where the narrative and the missions might be a bit looser. You know what I mean? Like I felt like if the Thor mission we saw was actually just a co-op side mission, it would have been so much better. It was the fact that it was supposed to be this kind of showcase for what the hero missions will promise. And if anything, it just kind of looked a bit empty compared to what we saw going on in the multiplayer, especially with all the customization aspects, which I'm here for. I want to tinker with the Iron Man armor until my heart's content, and choose my own colors, and choose different variations from the comics and stuff, different marks. But I just feel like feel like it's what we worried about. It's the game's kind of approach to games as service and live service kind of mission structure and design, meshing with the promise of also delivering a really robust, set-piece heavy, driven single-player experience.
Yeah, you've completely encapsulated everything there. That's a great point to end on. Let us know what you thought of Marvel's Avengers War Table gameplay down in the comments below. Are you excited for the game, or are you a little bit Once you've done that, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and head back on over to WhatCulture.com/gaming, where we'll have more coverage on Marvel's Avengers over the coming months. Remember, you can find me on Twitter at Ewan Bruins Things, and you can follow Josh on Twitter at
Josh Brune with 2 O's.
And we'll see you next time. Disassembling. Disassemble. Get out of here. Bye.